More will trickle in. Cool. So, hello everyone.
Sounds
Welcome back to another virtual event with Calyptus, Web3's career community for senior builders. And if you're a dev that hasn't actually signed up already, then please register at a link in the chat, which hopefully Callum is going to put in now. Make sure to check us out, our Twitter as well. It's worth mentioning too that on the 11th of October, we are going to be launching our end-to-end Solana curriculum for experienced builders. We spent literally the last 6 months working on this with leading experts in the Solana ecosystem to build it. And the best thing is that it's completely free and it's open source. So if you're keen to become a certified Solana dev by Calyptus, then start up at our website and we'll keep you in the loop every step of the way into our launch. But yeah, on with the show, and we're very honored today to have Pratham Prasoon, the talented DevRel at Eclipse, and also Twitter influencer. I'm sure many of you may have come via Twitter, where he discusses topics on all things programming, from JS to Python to Rust. Over 150,000 followers. If you're not following him already, then you should be. And Callum will drop in his Twitter handle as well, Prasoon Pratham. Today we have a talk from Pratham on his Web3 journey, the layer 2 rollup landscape, and also uniquely touching upon Eclipse, the layer 2 rollup, which uses the Solana Virtual Machine. Great to have you, Pratham. Really looking forward to the talk. I think, as mentioned previously, if you do have any questions, just drop it in the chat, and myself or Callum will really interrupt Pratham, hopefully at the right time, and then we can ask those questions for you. Cool, that's it from me. Pratham, over to you.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me here, and super excited to talk about my journey in Web3, a bit about myself, and what cool things we're building at Eclipse. So let's just dive right into it. So I'll share my screen, and just let me know if you can see it properly.
We've got it. Yep, looks good.
All good? Yeah, sounds good. So hey everyone, great to have you here. I'm Pratham Prasoon, and I'm a developer relations engineer at Eclipse. Previously, I was a software engineer for the last 7 or 8 months, and now I'm sort of leading the charge on developer relations with Eclipse, which obviously I'll talk a bit about later as we go through this presentation. So the main topic of today is to just introduce myself and how I eventually became a DevRel at Eclipse. But I also want to touch on to a very unique and interesting product launch that Eclipse just had yesterday. So we will be going over all of that in this presentation. So let's go ahead. So I'm 19 years old, dropped out of high school, and I'm a self-taught software engineer, and I've been just learning how to code for like the past 4 or 5 years, seriously. And then I've learned everything from Python to JavaScript and Rust, and I've worked at several other companies, and my main interests include artificial intelligence and machine learning, and along with that, I am obviously also very passionate about working in the Web3 and blockchain space. I briefly worked with the Indian government on creating content around explaining machine learning, and this was back in 2020. So a couple of years ago. And I've been involved in the Web3 space since 2021. And it all started when I was a had the opportunity to be DevRel at ThirdWeb, which is another startup in the blockchain space, and they deal with developer tooling and things like that. So that was, in fact, like that bull market during 2021 was my first, sort of, it was a way for me to get into the Web3 space, and that is where all of this started. After that, I eventually left ThirdWeb to pursue my own project, for which I was awarded a $10,000 grant from Polygon. Unfortunately, the project was not very successful, but I learned a lot of things from it, became a better engineer, and just really great learning opportunity. Then this is last year when I was a part of Celestia's Modular Fellows cohort, and Celestia is another blockchain infrastructure company that specializes in different areas of the modular blockchain stack. So I was I was the youngest person in that cohort, and in 3 months I built a project with Celestia, and I was also awarded a grant for that. So yeah, that and funnily enough, I happened to meet a lot of the people at Eclipse because of Celestia's Modular Fellows cohort. And after that is when I met like the CEO of Eclipse, and I eventually, as soon as high school kind of ended, I started working at Eclipse. And for the last 6 or 7 months, I have been a software engineer. So I've been working on the DevOps side. I've been building some doing some work around smart contracts, some bridging work, some just front end dashboards and things like that. So a lot of generalized work that I did at Eclipse as a software engineer. And now going forward, I will be a developer relations engineer, and my goal is to help developers succeed in building on Eclipse. I and Throughout the course of these last 3 or 4 years, I've also built my social media presence just by sharing my journey on Twitter. So I have over 150,000 followers there, um, almost 7,000 followers on LinkedIn, and more than 4,000 followers on Instagram. So yeah, seems like a lot of people enjoy what I share. So that's good to see. Last year, I was also like I was also featured by CNBC for my contributions in the AI community, and this was done by Meta, formerly Facebook. So, yeah, enough bragging about me. But I've as you can see, like I've been involved in the space for quite a while, and I've done lots of different things. And yeah, here's a photo of me from 2015 when I like first started to learn how to code. So yeah, it's been a long journey since then. So that's all about me. And yeah, let's get into the very cool and interesting things that we're building on at Eclipse. So if you saw our announcement tweet yesterday, which blew up, and like it had a lot of attention from lots of major crypto firms, and just overall was very well received by the crypto community. So we are Eclipse is rolling out a layer 2 that's built with the Solana virtual machine on top of Ethereum. So it's incredibly exciting, and I just want to get into the details of that and whatnot. But I would encourage you to go and check out our Twitter page and see the announcement for yourself if you have any more questions or thoughts. So um, the goal with Eclipse was to use the highly portable and like efficient Solana virtual machine and turn that into a roll-up framework. And one of the major steps that we are taking to do that is by creating the Eclipse mainnet. And this Eclipse mainnet is essentially, think of it as the speed of Solana, but with the liquidity and the consensus that you get with Ethereum. So that's the goal with the SVM L2 on Ethereum that Eclipse is bringing. And is officially Ethereum's fastest L2, and it's obviously powered by the Solana virtual machine. So let's go into details of how it works. So for before we get into what exactly Eclipse does, which is rollups, let's try to understand what a rollup is first of all. So if you know what blockchains are, you can think of rollups as blockchains on top of blockchains. And this is generally done so that you get performance and speed benefits. And there are some other things that we can talk about, but those are like the two main reasons why you would want to have a rollup. Rollups are they scale the base blockchain, so to speak. So if you can see in this diagram here, the layer 1 blockchain, this is the base blockchain, which is Ethereum in this case. And then you have a blockchain on top of it, which is the rollup or the layer 2. Now this is where Eclipse will sit in, and we will have Ethereum and also Celestia, which I'll talk about later. But the goal here is to again have the speed of Solana with the liquidity and the community of Ethereum. So the transactions go on the layer 2, and then the like those transactions they're essentially calculated and processed on the layer 2, and like a part and then once it's processed, a sort of proof is sent to the base blockchain. So instead of having all transactions like slowly go to the L1, you can have it processed outside and then send the proofs to the main blockchain. So that's sort of like the thinking behind rollups and why they're needed. I mean, for context, if you were to just go use Ethereum today, it would cost more than $20 per transaction, and sometimes it goes even as high as $100. If you were to use a layer two that is based on Ethereum, you might not even use more than $1 per transaction. So like that's where rollups are a fantastic way to scale blockchains, and that's why um that's the problem that Eclipse is trying to solve here. So let's go to a bit more now that we know what rollups are, let's go into technical details of how Eclipse's rollup works. So rollups generally come in two forms, so to speak. So one of those is optimistic rollups, and the other is ZK rollups. And there are a lot of technicalities that we can go into, but generally the case is that ZK rollups are more expensive, but they have instant finality, which means that once a person makes like a transaction on the layer 2, it can instantly be computed and the proof can be sent to the base blockchain, the layer 1. In optimistic rollups, we assume that all transactions are valid and the like layer 2 is not acting maliciously. So and then there is like there's a period where you can basically challenge the validity of a transaction. So so by the name you might have guessed that optimistic rollups assume that all transactions that go to the base blockchain are optimistic. So that and there is a challenge period that is there so that other people can challenge transactions that may be fraudulent. Like the problem here is that you won't have instant finality, but at the same time the cost will be, at least given the progress that we've had on ZK rollups, it's still fairly it's a lot more cheaper than ZK rollups right now. So it's just a trade-off of finality and cost that you have to see whether you want to ZK or an optimistic rollup. And Eclipse right now operates in an optimistic rollup setting, but we plan to use something called Risk Zero, which uses it's a technology that uses the RISC-V bytecode to generate ZK proofs and then put it onto the layer 1 blockchain. And for even more context, Risk is this. Did someone say something? I don't think so. Yeah.
Carry on.
But for context, Risk is this. It's this. You can think of it as like a programming language that's used on certain types of processors, and these processors are called RISC-V. So using those, you can generate zero knowledge proofs, and you can send that to the base blockchain. And this is currently in development. This is what Eclipse is currently working on. And there is also something called a sequencer. So when there are transactions that come onto a blockchain, there is essentially this program that sequences the that sequences the transactions in order of when they happen. So let's say I did a transaction and then Dan made a transaction. So the sequencer will sequence my transaction before Dan's transaction. But let's say if I decide to pay more in gas fees, which is like think of it as like costs that are required for the blockchain to operate, then maybe the sequencer might give me some priority, might give Dan some priority over me. So right now the sequencer is not decentralized, it's a single sequencer, but down the line we plan to have a decentralized sequencer, which is like another topic in and out of itself that I can talk for hours on end. So but
Can I just quickly
that's
ask what layer twos actually have a decentralized sequencer right now?
I don't think. I think most of them are trying to decentralize their sequencer. I think I saw Monad maybe, or I'm not sure what it was, but they are like in the process of decentralizing the sequencer. But I don't think there's a single L2 that's fully decentralized yet.
Yeah, okay, interesting. We've actually got another question. What is your learning approach to new technology and how do you learn effectively? Um, Broader question, but if you want to address that one.
Yeah, I think it just learning something, it depends on what your motivation is or why you're learning something. Like I personally, like as I said, I learn about artificial intelligence and like blockchains, and I also study economics and finance on the side. So my motivation for learning things is because I find it interesting, and it hopefully allows me to solve problems that I need to. So that's why I mean, once I know why I want to do something, then I just look for resources online. Maybe I'll just ask ChatGPT, how do I learn about consensus mechanisms and blockchains or something like that. I'll read articles on it. I'll see YouTube videos. That's the basic way of how I learn things. Maybe if I really want to dive deeper into that technology, I'll read some research papers or whatever. But I guess this is more for theoretical stuff. For practical things like just learning how to code, or like let's say if I want to learn Rust, I will just think of a project that I want to make with Rust and I immediately just start building it. And as I start building it, I ask ChatGPT or search for Google whenever I get stuck on things. So that's my approach to learning things. I think different people, maybe they prefer courses or they want to do things differently than but like this is just my personal approach on learning new technologies and just topics I'm interested in.
Awesome. Cheers, Pratham. Hope that helps, Raw.
Yeah, sounds good. Um, and yeah, let's continue. So we were talking about the ZK tech that Eclipse is building. So this would be the first ZK rollup that leverages the Solana virtual machine. So yeah, that's our innovation there. And I mean, there's a lot of innovations there, but this is personally, I think ZK is one of the more interesting things to me. And so as I mentioned before, Ethereum is the L1 blockchain that we are posting the validity proofs to, which is essentially like it's a proof that all transactions that happened on the Eclipse blockchain were correct. So that's posted to Ethereum. At the same time, the data in all the blocks. So for context, like when you do a transaction on when you do a transaction on a blockchain, you can also send data with the transaction. Like if you want to send an image or if you just want to encode something, you can put data on there. And basically what we're doing is we're storing that data onto something called Celestia, and this is what Celestia does. Let's actually go to the next slide. So Celestia specializes in data availability. So Celestia is another blockchain that its sole purpose is just to make sure that the data is quote unquote available. And it uses lots of technologies like light nodes, data availability sampling, and whatnot that we can go into. But essentially, they are just keeping they're storing data, if that makes sense. And for the proofs, since Ethereum is expensive, you want to minimize the amount of things that you put onto Ethereum. So all we do is we post the validity proof there. So by doing this sort of architecture, we can get a very performant blockchain that's cheap and still leverages the Ethereum ecosystem. And the native token that's used on the Eclipse blockchain will be Ethereum itself. So you don't have to buy another token or do anything. All you'll have to do is you'll have to bridge Ethereum from the mainnet to the Eclipse blockchain. And that means that you will also get all the liquidity that Ethereum has, like the billions and billions of dollars of liquidity, and also the ecosystem benefits and composability and whatnot. So uh, yeah, and for wallets, we support MetaMask. There's this thing called a Snap, which is essentially it brings Solana compatibility onto MetaMask wallets. So we'll be leveraging that, and we'll also have other wallet providers that work with any Eclipse, that any D app that's posted on Eclipse. And then, yeah, how do you use it? Like it. So for the cool thing about Eclipse is that it for a developer or a user, it's essentially Solana because we just use the Solana virtual machine. So all the great tooling that you use with Solana, like the Rust frameworks, JavaScript frameworks, the wallets that are there, you get access to all of that with the ecosystem of Ethereum itself. So even the blockchain explorer like Solscan will work. And yeah, as mentioned before, you will also get wallet support with MetaMask snaps. So yeah, everything remains the same. And again, I keep saying this again and again, but this is a very ETH aligned blockchain. So like you use the power of Solana with the liquidity and the users of Ethereum. So you can just go through this. And Ethereum is the native gas token. So yeah, and we have no plans
Pratham,
for a token. Yeah.
we've got another question, which is uh, from Sadiq. Why use SVM, Solana Virtual Machine?
Yeah, that's that's exactly what we were coming to in the next slide. So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, one of the reasons is here, like the SVM is already widely adopted by the Solana community, and it's very well maintained. And there are going to be upgrades on like efficiency, like Tiny Dancer, not Tiny Dancer, it's Fire Dancer. Yeah, so Fire Dancer is working on this new validator that increases the throughput of the SVM by like by a fair margin. So like we get access to all those benefits and like all those upgrades at the same time. Like developers don't have to like switch to something unique. So yeah, and like yeah, here's why you would want to build with Eclipse. Like we fully support Metaplex, Solana's Rust and JavaScript SDKs. And so that's obviously a massive thing because Solana basically took years and years to build all this tooling around it that is just fantastic to use for developers. So that's a huge plus. And then you also get the native Ethereum alignment. You also get like high performance because transactions on the SVM can be parallelized. So unlike something like the Ethereum client, like Go Ethereum, I think that's what it's called. That is
Keith.
single
Yeah, yeah.
threaded, which yeah, which means that there's like only one transaction that can go in like one CPU, so to speak. But in the case of Solana, if you have a CPU with multiple cores, it can distribute multiple transactions on those cores, and that is obviously very important. So this means that you will have lower gas fees and transactions will go through faster and everything just the UX feels a lot better. And we will have um, ZK proofs with risk zero, and that will obviously enable instant finality. So that's going to be great. And this performance is very helpful for games where you might want mass NFT mints, or maybe you want to do something like a trading system like DYDX. And it's also great for something called Deepin, which is this Solana thing where you can is like it's sort of like a bridge between the real world and using Web3 to build infrastructure in the real world. So like an example would be, let's say there is a telecom company that wants to build like a 5G network in an area. Generally, what they would have to do is that they will have to build their they will have to they'll probably get a lot of workers and they will have their own team that does it, and they'll have to like put devices in different places. What Deepin would allow you to do in this case is that you incentivize just normal people like you and me to take, let's say, whatever 5G equipment they have, and like we assemble it for them. So we do the work for it and we get paid in the form of crypto tokens for it. And that is what Deepin allows us to do. And the reason why Deepin is such a Solana specific thing is because it like deep like this requires a lot of throughput, and that is only enabled by the Solana virtual machine. So like imagine like 5,000 people around the world, like they're trying to set up this 5G infrastructure and the company is trying to pay them through Deepin. Yeah, so that
Sorry, someone's having a party at the same time. I think we caught that one. Just muted. We'll try again.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So yeah, so deepen allows for like it's a Solana thing. So that's why again by virtue of being a Solana
Callum? Callum is our official bouncer on the admin account. So hopefully, Callum, if you can chuck out or
They've been
mute
removed.
permanently.
They've been removed.
nice.
It was a good. It was.
Yeah.
It was a good. It was a good track. It was a good track. Never mind.
Yeah.
Maybe for the credits at the end we can play that song. Not
Yeah, yeah. It's like when you're about to end a movie, you know, you want a perfect soundtrack. So nice.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's all about deepen. And just to add more things on top, we also support IBC and hyperlane support. So IBC is the inter interconnect blockchain. I forgot what the full form of IBC is, but it's a protocol that's very much inspired by um like UDP and TLS handshakes, and it's a thing in the Cosmos ecosystem that allows you to basically you can have two blockchains that can talk to each other permissionlessly. So, and Hyperlane is another similar solution for that. So let's say you want to yeah, inter blockchain communication protocol. Yes, thank you, Dan. So just slipped out of my mind there. But yeah, these are two permissionless bridging solutions that you can use to have NFTs or tokens or different kinds of assets bridge from an Eclipse chain to another chain that might support um, like Hyperlane or IBC. So you get a lot of goodies by using Eclipse. So like the possibilities are endless here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hopefully you enjoyed this session on just like talking about Eclipse, talking about myself and whatnot. If you want to build on Eclipse and do some cool things, you can reach out to me on my socials, which are given right here. And yeah, open to questions and happy to support builders in the ecosystem.
Great talk, Pratham. As mentioned, the floor is ready for any questions. So fire them up, and if you want to ask any, do so now. Rawls just asked, how many rounds in Eclipse? Is that investment rounds? I'm not too sure what rounds.
Yeah, so Eclipse has had a seed round, and we had a $15 million seed round about a year ago, I would say. So yeah.
Cool. Nice. So you got funding just before perhaps the crash. We have another question. Eclipse's site. Do we have
Eclipse
a
dot
official
builders. Yeah, that's right.
dot
Yeah.
builders? Cool. Perfect. Can you explain IBC? How is it different from others?
So, IBC is, to my understanding, it's inspired by the TCP/IP protocol, if you've heard of that. Like, so essentially what happens is, each blockchain has this thing called a light node, and there is a relayer um, blockchain as well. So it's not a blockchain exactly, but there's a layer called the relayer that just looks for messages on either of the light nodes, and then there is sort of like a standard protocol that's required by each of these light nodes that they have to follow, and then the relayer will see that, oh, there is a message by this light node here that it wants to send these many assets to this blockchain here. So when it sees that, the relayer takes that and it gives it to this light node, where this light node will check the validity of the transaction that's incoming, and if it's valid, then basically both of these blockchains will communicate, and then whatever transaction that has to be done will be performed. And this can take time, and as far as I know, I think it operates very much like an optimistic setup, where there's like a 7-day challenge period and things like that. So That's the innovation of IBC. And Hyperlane also exists, works in a similar way. Like they also are a permissionless bridging technology. So this is different from something like Wormhole, which is a more of a permissioned way. Actually, Wormhole is also permissionless, but Wormhole is just more for Solana to Ethereum and back and forth. It's not really for any blockchain ever. So yeah, IBC and Hyperlane are chain agnostic, on the other hand.
Thanks for clarifying. Cool. Amazing. Well, we've got another question here. How do you connect to Eclipse?
Shoot me a message on Twitter, and yeah, I'll have you connected. You can also follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, either works.
Cool, 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 cool. So you can provide a quick walkthrough or demo. I'm sure it's very easy. Raw wanted to just to clarify technical rounds, not investment
Oh, I
rounds.
guess I guess they're talking about the interview technical rounds. I think it depends on what position you're going for. When I joined, I think I had maybe 3 or 4 rounds, and then I was eventually hired. So yeah.
Cool, 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 cool. Okay, makes sense. Maybe rules lining up to apply. Jazz is asking, what is the average transaction cost on Eclipse?
The average transaction cost should be it should be similar to Solana, maybe even slightly cheaper, or slightly expensive, but it will not be a lot. Like, I mean, Solana is pretty cheap as it is. So, yeah, it's expected to be in that ballpark.
Cool, pennies or cents. Um, Great. And another one here is, does Eclipse have any open source project?
So I mean, all of Eclipse will eventually be open source once we have audited and done all the security measures. So, expect that to be around sometime next year. So, yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. I guess on the roadmap. And then Sadiq's asking, without permission of the host or server, how can a transaction happen?
Well, that sort of goes more into blockchains itself. Like, um, I'd encourage you to like just learn how blockchains work, and they're like this is too broad of a topic to cover right now, but um, the server essentially is the blockchain, and there are lots of nodes that like sort of execute the transaction, and then there is consensus, there is sequencing and stuff. So I would just look into a bit more of the blockchain fundamentals.
Cool, cool, cool. One question here from Sharia. AI or ML or Web3? I'm guessing, what's your favorite?
Depends at what time of the day you ask me.
Or what type? Yeah, or what part of the crypto cycle you're on?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're just um like I like Web3 because of like some of the like just the values that it has, like just making the web more democratic and more liberty and just like things around ownership. I like that. But there are things about Web3 that I don't like. So and it's kind of the same for AI and ML. So it's like um I I don't know. I like them for different reasons. I can't really compare the two. But yeah, I do work like pretty much all my time is spent on either artificial intelligence or working on Web3 and blockchains. So yeah, both.
Cool. You dabble in all of them, and I suppose there's that convergence of tech frontiers is where actually a lot of magic can happen, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Hmm.
keep things on the pies. Um, cool. Any more questions from the audience? Three,
I think a few
two,
people are still
one.
joining.
Well, yeah, right. We've got some people joining in even all at the same time. I think there's no more questions. we'll leave it there. Cool. I mean, Pratham, thanks so much for this talk. It was really insightful learning about your own background and how you ended up getting into Web3 layer twos. Um, sorry,
Yeah.
one last question.
Give
Okay,
roadmap for blockchain.
that is the absolute last question. Give roadmap
Yeah, sure.
for
It's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
blockchain.
I think it depends on what you want to do in blockchains. Like my personal interests were, I wanted to work on the infrastructure side, and I was also interested on the application layer. So if you're interested on building apps on top of blockchains, you don't really need to know all the theory behind sequencers and consensus mechanisms or zero notch proofs or whatever. So for that, I mean, I would recommend learning something like Solidity, and then you're learning JavaScript and use some frameworks like Foundry or Hardhat, and then like learn how to build applications using that. That's an interest that you have to look into. But if you're interested in learning things more on the infrastructure side, I feel like you should like learn a bit of math, like how to like learn a bit about just cryptography and things like that, and also learn a systems level language like Rust or Go, so that'll be more helpful there. So it depends on what your interest is. So I would just, those are like the two broader roadmaps, and I guess you could say would be. But I will always say that, follow your curiosity, and like otherwise, if you're not curious about what you're learning, it's hard to just keep doing it for long enough. So yeah, I think that's just personally how I would view it.
Good advice. We have an encore of final questions, so
It's fine, we're here.
we've booked the hour. So if people do have more questions, that is absolutely fine. Why don't we just jump into them? Obviously, I joined late. I just want to ask how to get into Web3. What should be your very first step?
Yeah, again, as I said, it just depends on what you're curious about and what field you want to work in. So either you work on the application layer or the infrastructure layer, that's something for you to decide. If you want to just look into potential applications to build on top of blockchains, just ask ChatGPT or look into Google. If you want to work more on the infrastructure side, I recommend just looking at the code of how Ethereum works or how Solana works or how Eclipse works for that matter. So just yeah, different interests, different strategies to learn things, I would say.
Awesome, brilliant. Um, what should someone learn if they are a beginner? The very first step.
I think just being a good programmer helps. So I would say definitely like Rust and Solidity are two very good contenders. Like if you just want to get into the Web3 space, Eclipse, for example, uses Rust because it's based on Solana. So like definitely Rust it has a bit of a learning curve, but it's I mean you guys have a course on Rust and Solana, so I think that's like a fantastic resource that everyone should look into. And yeah, I would highly recommend it.
Thanks. That was a plug about our course that wasn't from me. So thanks, Pratham. That's very kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, guys, we launched on the 11th of October. Definitely do it. Again, it's free and open source, and we've worked very hard on it. So would love to have you guys to check it out on our website. Um, more questions. Learning maybe helping to post about learning it. Someone's write a blog post about learning. It will help every coder. I think
I
I'm
will.
always
I
saying that
will.
Pratham,
Like, is this?
follow his Twitter, man. I mean, his Twitter's got plenty of that already. But yeah, we want more, Pratham. We
Yeah,
want more.
I do want to do more blog posts and things like that, but it's just I like, as I said, like for the last 6 or 7 months, I was just in Eclipse, like just lots of things on the back end that we had to work on. So it was very intense then. So I didn't really get a chance to work on more forward facing things like blog posts and Twitter threads and whatnot. But now that I'm DevRel, like that's literally my job. So I'll definitely be more doing more of that. And yeah, super. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed.
Glad to hear it. Kalash asking, which language should we start with?
And I would say Um, um, if you are in for a challenge, like try Rust. It's hard, but there's a lot of it's a very nice language to write into, is what I've personally felt as I've slowly started learning it. I think also if you want to go for something more if you're interested in AI and machine learning, use Python. If you are interested in building websites and things like that, do JavaScript. So yeah, and if you want to write smart contracts, it's Solidity. So it just depends on what you want to do. Um, but yeah, that's my take on it.
Great advice. Uh, can I know more about Dan? You can't know more about me. This is definitely not a hosted event on me at all. I'm just co-founder at Calyptus with Callum, and we host these basically every week. So definitely come by to each one if you've enjoyed this one. Sure, yeah. Um, after learning Solidity and Rust, what kind of job role should we apply to?
Well, that's a hard question because I mean, I don't think you'll ever learn Rust fully. Like, no matter how much I keep learning Rust, like there is something or the other that pops up that I never knew about. So I think it's just as soon as you can make projects and build things like somewhat confidently, I would just say try applying. If you won't apply, you won't get to know the areas that you're actually weak in and that the ones that you have to fix. So, and then once I guess you know what your where your weakness is, you can like take, for example, Calyptus's course and then learn that thing. So it's just, I would say it's just a process that you have to go through.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, Callum and also our recruiter, we provide free CV support, free education. So if you guys are looking for what gaps you have in your current skills, whatever, just come to us on our Discord and ask us a question at support, and we can help with that. Tarush says, "What technologies should I learn to get my first 100K offer?" I would say auditing, but that's not technology, but it's definitely a
Oh,
type of
auditors,
role.
yeah. I mean, the Web3 security folks get paid a lot. That's what I know for sure. But I think like getting a, I guess if your goal is to get 100K offer, um it's not just about the technologies that you learn, but also the connections that you have and how well you show the things that you've made on social media or whatever. Like that's just personally how I've been through it. So it depends. Yeah.
Definitely. Depends if the company's got loads of money, depends what role it is, depends, yeah, of lots of different factors. Also depends on the cycle. You can get paid so much more at the top of the crypto cycle than the bottom. Um, but yeah, I suppose it's just starting and going from there. But security definitely has a lot of opportunities for that kind of money. Um, Last question, is the recording available? We're going to have it available from tomorrow morning. We'll have it on our YouTube and we will share that on our Discord, on our Twitter. I'm sure Pratham will can share it too as well. So you can watch all over again. Cool, guys. Well, this has been a great event. Um, one more question, and this is actually the last one. No more questions after this. I won't be taking any. Where do you see Eclipse in the next 2 to 3 years?
On the moon.
That's the right attitude. 100% on the moon. Definitely. Um, well, Paul, thanks so much, Pratham. Great talk. Thanks all for attending. Hopefully, see you all again. And yeah, until next time, all the best.
Bye
Cheers,
everyone.
guys.
Thanks for being here. Bye.